Hello, everyone. We're glad to see you today on our seventh community call. So yeah, like it's not 70, but we are going towards that. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, thanks for joining in. So please bear in mind that we will have the recording of this call. So if you will if you will say something that you would not like to have on this recording, please hit me up in the direct messages. We'll cut that out. We've had several cases of that already, so that works pretty well. So don't worry about that. Today's agenda is a small presentation about GPT web app generator from my old-time friend Matya. Then we'll have like a small discussion, but today I guess it will be a bit interconnected. So we'll see how that goes, and probably the discussion part will start alongside the GPT web app generator presentation because I've got so much to ask, but we'll see how that goes. So a couple words about Matya. So he's a co-founder and CEO of Wasp. Wasp is a framework that helps you build your web applications faster and in a more convenient way. So basically, that's DSL that you can use to bootstrap your application in the matter of seconds. Specifically myself, I guess I've built more than 5 applications already, and I guess something like approximately 10 different small pet projects that never made it publicly, so been playing with that. And one of those applications that I built was acquired. One of them is, I guess, will be used extensively in one of the bigger companies. And yeah, a couple of those I'm building right now. And the last time I played with Wasp was like 5 minutes ago before the call. So you will have that possibility, check them out. We have Vince in the community and Martin as well. So if you have something to ask, you can hit them up in the community. So the Wasp team had a great journey at Y Combinator in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, and is building in public his small application, reflectdaily.app. Check that out. So at this moment, I'm giving the stage to you, Matya. So please share the screen and show us what the generator is about.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you very much, Max, for the kind intro. As Max mentioned, we know each other from quite a while ago. Used to work together, so yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today, and even better pleasure to see you are using Wasp successfully. We are always super happy to hear about your success stories. Acquisition was amazing story. We plan to cover that soon also on our blog. So yeah, just amazing all together to be here and to be able to present what we have been working on lately. So yeah, let me just share my screen. I don't have an official presentation, so it's going to be more of a just kind of hands-on stuff. I think I won't need like 30 minutes, for just. I think it's going to be more like I can just show you stuff. You can ask me around. We can discuss whatever is interesting. So feel free to ask whatever sounds that you would like to know more about.
Well, we allocated 3 hours for your presentation, so.
Oh wow! Okay, then we'll just fill it in with some music. We can watch a movie. We can watch a movie together. Whatever. Yeah. Let me just share everything. Oh, okay. I will just share the second screen, and that should be good. Okay. Cool. Okay, let's see if this works. Move zoom. Can you see my screen? You should see like GPT web generator. Okay, nice.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Let me just go to the main site. Okay, so this is the official link to the GPT web generator. And in short, what Max said, Wasp by itself is a solution web framework for React and Node. And then, GPT web generator is a solution AI powered to help you quickly, skeleton and kind of produce your application in the Wasp, React, Node, and Prisma, which is the stack that Wasp is actually using. So it is super simple. In fact, the main thing is you just have to enter what kind of application you want. We have a couple of examples here, and we are going to try out one of these. So for example, here is like my plants. Let's say you want to make sure to water your plants regularly, get some notifications, and kind of track let's say, have a little CRM of your plants, and you can just explain it in a human readable language, like like you would to ChatGPT, for example. I want to have some users. They need to be able to trade their plants. There will be some watering schedule. There will be some buttons which are doing some actions and similar. And it doesn't have to be too long, but you have to provide some information. After that, we give you some information to choose, like some theme color. Do you want GPT to go a bit crazier, in their kind of code producing, or you want to keep it more conventional? We can talk a bit more about it later. And of course, we will have more methods coming soon, but for now, it is just username and password. And what happens when you hit the generate the app button? We can see it in action soon. But pretty much we generate the whole application for you, and the only part left is actually for you to download it, run it locally, and adjust anything you want. So pretty much it is let's say a pretty smart CRUD app starter. Now today we have a bunch of those template starters, SaaS starters. Some you even have to pay for, and similarly. But our vision of the future is that pretty much with GPT and AI, kind of every framework or every solution should have their own GPT power starter. Because why would we bother with downloading a statical SaaS template and then coding everything by hand if we can actually say what we want and get so much in advance. So this is what we are offering with this solution. Basically, you get a smartly skeleton up for you, with all your data models, entities, even UI. So you get a much faster start. So you still have to need to be a developer and know how to use React, Node, and Wasp in this case. But still, it gives you so much in advance, and kind of it does all the typical boilerplate wiring stuff that you have to Google around. Otherwise, it's all sorted out for you. So that's it in a nutshell. We can now discuss more, about how it works. We can see it in action, and then discuss and kind of check out the results. So what would be interesting? In which direction should we take it?
This is Matt. I'm kind of curious. When it generates the application, is it the straight application itself, the source code? Is it generating test cases as well, unit tests and things like that to test the application because we all know that the AI is good, but not always perfect. So, I'm kind of curious if you handle that as well.
Okay, cool. We can check it out. Yeah, in this version, this is like first version. We don't generate test cases yet, but we could. So okay. That's probably coming in one of the next iterations. Right now, we generate full front end, back end, and deployment for you. And you can still write out the test yourself if you want. But yeah, probably coming in one of the next. But you get the full source code, so you're feel free to do whatever you want with it next. Yeah.
So the description you're putting in, that's the basis for it. Is there any like when you go through the process of saying generate the app, does it provide you with the steps that happened afterwards to see what it was thinking, like to audit that? Is that part of the process too?
Actually, yes. So once you hit this button, you don't have to do anything else. But we are going to show you, kind of what's happening under the hood. I will also show you a bit more, like what kind of prompts are being thrown around, what's happening, kind of under the hood. But for now, we just kept it super simple. And all you have to do is actually fill out this form with 2 fields: application name and short description. So we'll probably expand it in the future, but we just wanted to make it like super approachable for now, so that anybody can try and get something working quite quickly. This is also maybe one of the biggest differences. So I haven't mentioned that so far, but since we launched this about a month ago, now we have almost 10,000 applications generated with it, which was quite unexpected. Because once we launched it, there were other coding agents out there, already, like small AI, GPT engineer, and a couple of others. Yeah. So we weren't sure what is the reception going to be like, and we were quite overwhelmed. I think we got like first 5K in the first week, and then the rest kind of started coming in the next weeks. So this was quite crazy. And I think the main reason was actually, twofold. So one is that this is kind of the first coding agent which is specialized for building full stack web apps. So like all the others, you can do whatever you want. It can be a game, it can be a Python script, it can be R or whatever. So they are not kind of restricting you, which is good in one hand, but on the other hand, they are less kind of less specialized, right? And the second thing is that all of the other tools you have to run them from the terminal. So I mean that's cool, but it's a bit let's say unwieldy, especially for the less experienced users. You have to kind of download it locally, run it in a terminal, then battle with the error messages, kind of see the code where is it generated and similar. So we kind of tried to simplify the process as much as possible. So I believe this was the other reason why we got so much out of it.
Do you know how many applications made it to the production eventually?
So I mean, what we track is like what amount of people actually downloads the code once they generate it. So it's about 30%. About 30% of the applications get downloaded, and people do something with them forward. We don't know what happens afterwards, but it's actually like a pretty good number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
yeah. Shall we spin it? Shall we give it an action? Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Let's see how it works.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go with my plants product Hive. Okay, and I mean, let's see if there's anything. I mean, this is quite a good example. It's not too complicated, and also on the other hand, it's not too basic. So I think this is a good one to start with. Let's just give it some more.
And make it yellow like the Hive.
Yeah. Let's make it yellow like Hive. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Let's keep it balanced. So we don't get too many errors, and yeah, it sounds good.
What other kinds of authentication do you have other than user and password? I was just curious.
Yeah, so I mean that is also coming. So if you click on this, actually let me run this locally. I run the local version of our app. I ran it because then I can show you all the stuff which is happening under the hood.
Got it.
So let's do it again. My plants Hive, and okay, this is all good. Let's do it yellow. And yes, for now we have only username and password, but we will also add email, social lot, with Gmail, Facebook, and similar. So we can support all of these. Okay, awesome. I think this is it. Let's run it. Woo. Okay, so what's now happening? And now we will start seeing messages from the GPT generator, which is kind of describing the process of the generation. Also as you asked, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
So we have two main steps in the whole generation. So one which we are seeing right now is called generating the plan. So this is the most complicated part. So this is where we feed the prompt, the input into GPT along with some other information I'm going to show you, and then GPT is trying to kind of understand itself what's happening and what kind of code it should produce. So it will also spit out kind of the rough plan here once it's done. So it will say something like, okay, so I need 2 pages. One is going to be like dashboard. One is going to be to check out a specific plan, for example. And I need so it's here right now. So let me just go up. It's fixing the plan. Okay, so let's wait until it fixes it. But what's going to happen is going to give us a short summary of the code in terms of pages, queries, actions, mutations, buttons, and similar. And once that is done, the next step is actually generating what we envisioned in the plan step. So, and that's pretty much it. I mean, once that is generated, the last part is fixing the errors. I mean, as we all know, GPT is not very deterministic. It doesn't really understand all the rules of the code. It's mostly kind of comes from the huge pattern matching that it learned. So we cannot expect it to, have everything right from the first try. So, this is why we observed that, asking GPT to fix something actually works pretty well. So this is also what we do here. Once we realize, okay, we have a couple of mistakes in the code here, and, we can detect some of the mistakes. We have, some of the mechanisms to do that. Mm-hmm. We ask GPT to do it again. And, after a couple of iterations, we typically, come quite close to the working application. There still might be in the end a couple of smaller mistakes, but, they're usually quite easy to fix by hand. So we can also see here, we can observe the whole source code which is being generated. So, in WASP, it works kind of similar to any framework. We have our client code, we have server code, and, we have our React components here, and here we have database queries and actions. So we can see here stuff. Sorry, go on, Matt. Yeah.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. I
No.
thought you finished. I was going to ask, is this running the code or and providing some kind of compilation during the process to look for those mistakes, or running it through a linter in some way? Is that what's going on as part of the process?
Exactly. So I think we have two main things. So I wasn't the main guy of the implementation. It was my co-founder, my brother. So he would know all the details.
Nice.
But one thing we are checking is this WASP file, which is the core of the default application. This is kind of the main specification, which has all the high-level properties like routes, pages. And I mean, this is very simple and declarative language, so we can easily compile it, link it, and see what's wrong. And the other thing is that we also identified some of the very common mistakes that GPT produces. For example, it had some trouble with imports, like it will mix up the specific imports or global imports or default imports. So we developed a couple of heuristics to detect and immediately change these kind of errors. I think we can also see here, if we check the logs now. So what was actually happening? First, we had the plan generation. And we said, okay, cool. So we need 2 queries, get all the plants, get one plant, create plant, water plant. Great. Then we have 2 data models. We have our user and user have plants. And we have 2 pages, a home page or some kind of dashboard, and like a page to add a new plant, obviously. We decided that by itself. So once we have plan, we had some fixing, obviously something wasn't satisfactory. And then it started with generation. Created entities or data models, then we got our actions, then we got our queries, and this is here in the end, what you said about fixing. So obviously detected in some way that something was wrong in queries and actions, and then applied a couple of rounds of fixing to that. I think similar stuff happened in React components, and in the end, we got our application done. So yeah, that was the generation process, and we can immediately observe the whole code here. We cannot run it yet. That's also something that is coming probably in the next version. But it's super easy to see how it looks like. So we have our typical. So here we also use Tailwind. Tailwind was the popular option, so we immediately went with Tailwind support. So here we have some typical layout, which is used for all the pages with, I guess, the navbar and similar. Then we have our add plant page. So obviously we have some watering frequency, plant name, create a new plant, and for server and actions, let's say some query. So WASP is using Prisma for database communication. So here we have, okay, give me all the plants for the current user, and give me a specific plant with some given ID. Okay, looking quite good so far. Shall we try to run it to see what we got?
Of course, this is
awesome. Yeah, let's do it. I just have to engage the audience,
That's right.
Like, shall we just leave here and quit the call, or shall we try to run it? Run it. Okay, cool. So for now, we have to download it locally. I have WASP installed, so I don't have to do anything else. So let me just download the zip. Okay, amazing. Should be downloaded. Let's go to our terminal. So I will just kill here the local application I'm running, so it doesn't take out my ports. And go to downloads, and let's see what we have here. What is the name? Well, let me just unzip it first. Great. And it's called My Plants Pro Hive. Okay, CD, My Plants Pro Hive. Nice. Okay, and here we have our WASP project. Main WASP is at the root, and all the files React Node are in the source folder. So let's just run WASP. First, we have to migrate the database. If you ever use Prisma, you are familiar with database migrations. Here is the same thing. So this will just take maybe 30 seconds to a minute, because now it's installing all the dependencies for the first time.
Have you considered trying to deploy the application after it's been generated? So instead of downloading the source code, you can deploy it to Flyo, for example, or the biggest bottleneck will be the database in that case?
I mean, we could do it. I mean, that's also one of the things that you're kind of, thinking of doing. We could actually let you run it in Gitpod or something like, some of these online cloud environments like Gitpod or Replit, and then also maybe even immediately deploy it to Fly, as you mentioned. I think one thing is that people will probably want to check out the code, to fix some errors maybe or do some small changes before actually deploying it. But on the other hand, it will be super cool to immediately see it live. So
Yeah,
that is true.
yeah, that should be this wow effect, because when you've been showing the UI, I've immediately been I've started thinking about the Gitpod, because basically you've implemented something that could be done with their with their virtual Visual Studio Code. So if you would instantly put it into Gitpod, for example, and spin the application, and the person will have those buttons on the UI that this person can click immediately and check that everything works, that should be pretty amazing, honestly. So
I agree. No, it's something we are thinking about. I think the two main things are like, how common are errors in the generated applications, which obviously then wouldn't run. And on the other hand, we just have to figure out, what you said, because we have to host both database, server, front end. Sometimes, those tools like Gitpod and Replit, they don't have the best, let's say, experience with it, because people mostly use them, to run the only front end or something like that. So we have to test a bit, what is the developer experience when running the full stack application. I think those are the two main things we have to figure out. But no, I agree, regarding experience wise, that would be the best possible output.
Yeah, looking at this application right now, I got those vibes that Slack had when they've only started. So if I'm not mistaken, the Slack was like a side project for the gaming company or something like this, and they've basically split it into a separate company that's became successful, and the first company died out. So yeah, I really hope Wasp will continue evolving and developing, but like looking at this project, it feels like you will need to raise the money to make this a separate startup, honestly. So.
Might be. No, really, it might be even like the whole separate thing. So no, I'm okay. If it becomes big like Slack, that's perfectly fine. I can live it. I can live with that. That's good problem to have. Yeah, no, but we can also talk more actually about relationship between Wasp as a framework itself, and this is also quite an interesting topic. So yeah, no, obviously it seems like it runs, which is always a good sign. And let's see if we had like any errors or something. No, seems like all is good. So here we get combined logs from client and server. So all seems in order. So let's try to sign up. Let's make that, let's put some password, and we are in. Nice. Okay, let's try to add a new plant. So it's funny because every time I run this application, there is like a slight variation, like one time there is a button, another time there is like, a little bit of a dashboard. You never know what exactly are you going to get.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's an absolutely awful situation to have during a demo when your code base is unpredictable. So when you're like, can't even prepare yourself to what is coming.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, we know I mean, it's always, it always works pretty much. It is just, one time you get like labels above the fields. Another time you just get, placeholders. You're never sure, what's going to be there. So, it's fine. Okay, let's say we have hibiscus and we need 3 days, like water it every 3 days. And let's add our plant. Okay, nice. Obviously, it's not showing actually what we added. Maybe there is another page for it. Let's add another one. Rose. Let's say Rose is here like every, 3 days. Okay. Now let's examine the actual code to see if GPT gave us a way to see what's happening. Let me just run my Visual Studio Code. Right, so before that, we can even just run Wasp DB Studio to see what's happening in the database.
Seems like there are no error messages, and the post operation succeeded. So yeah.
Yeah, that worked. That worked. I would just like to be able to show you something. So let me actually do it like this. Wasp. Oh, I put it DB downloads my friends, and that's how it was DB Studio. Okay, so let's check out the database. And in the meanwhile, I will find the code. Oops. Ah, it's here. Okay, cool. So you can check out. I can zoom it in a little bit if you can see it better.
Yeah, if you will zoom in a bit, that would be nice. Yeah.
So this is Prisma Studio under the hood. Since Wasp is using Prisma, we also get access to their Prisma Studio, which is Database Explorer. So we can see, cool, we have one user, which is me, and yeah, the password is obviously immediately hashed. And we have our 2 plants. And here they are. So, we both cover the name, frequency, and when it was last watered, so you can get some kind of notification. So obviously all of this works, which is great. We just need to figure out some kind of UI to show that. So let me see if there is anything in code, and I will show it to you in a second. And just open folder, and it's right here. Okay, open it. Let's show you the code. I will zoom it in a bit again. Yes, I trust everybody. Okay, let's go to our main WASP. Main WASP is kind of the backbone of your WASP application, and you can immediately see all the routes in it, everything which is happening with your application. Okay, so we have our login route and our sign up route. So that's all good. And let's see if there is anything else. We have homepage route and we have add plant route. So maybe that's something we can check out. Let's see what that add plant. That's here. But what if I go to the homepage then? It's here. Okay. So obviously it immediately took us to creating a new application. But here we have like our main dashboard, and we can see our super cool plants being ready for watering. I think we can even water them, but I think for now this just changes the field in the database, like last watered. And we can even add another plant. Let's say cactus. It's like every 30 days. Add plant, and obviously we have to go manually. Okay, we can just click here. Yeah. And that's it. It works. I'm pretty satisfied with that.
Very good. Very nice job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You did better than Bill Gates did on some presentations. And arguably a lot more
Cool. So that's it. That was like a super short demo. And yeah, I mean, what do you think? Happy to discuss whatever is interesting.
I want to how to say this. I have some comments. First, it's a really great stuff, and I think you can make it like even more greater, even more viral, if you will make it not for Wasp but for Next.js, because I never heard of Wasp, and as understood, it's like. Oh, it's pretty popular. There are lots of stars on GitHub. I don't know. Are you founder of Wasp or?
Yeah, exactly. I'm one of the founders of Wasp. So I mean, one of the main reasons for this was actually to promote Wasp.
I got it.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, I get. Sorry. We'll continue, Ivan. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well, because I think it solves like almost the same problem. Next is not covering the database, but it is covering the pages, the components, and the API routes. And it's give you a really nice structure, which could like let you very easy, much easier generate pages, UI components, because you just have the structure. You need to generate like a page file, put it to page folder. You need to generate like backend API routes. You just create a little file, put it in this folder, and it will be much easier to host it, because like GitHub pods, Replits can host Next project without any problems. For database, I think it could be a nice idea to maybe implement some like integration. I don't know, use Supabase or PlanetScale, because they have like really great free tiers, and maybe like at the bottom, like connect your Supabase or connect your PlanetScale, and with that you can really like very quickly create this like launch thing. Just user get his like database in some free service. It hosted like on GitHub or GitHub or I don't know, or whatever. You don't have to install the CLI, Wasp CLI, and adoption of Next, is so much higher. Well, I'm just a big fan of these meta projects. I'm personally using Vue. I'm not even a React guy, but I understand that Vue is really not popular right now because Svelte like killed it. But folks who started using Vue 5 years ago are using it still and they love it. But new people using Svelte. Anyway, you can just make the same thing, but for Next, it will be much easier to host. It will be much easier to maintain, and then maybe. Well, I think adoption will be much higher. But if you're using it to promote the Wasp, well, I get it. I understand it. So
yeah, sure.
And also, I had another comment because people are not starting new projects like so often. Most of the time, people are working on existing project, and I'm hoping that someday there will be a similar maybe CLI, I don't know, AI assistant who will index your like existing project. Who will index your routes, your pages, your like everything. Just get an access to your project folder, index it, and then you can create this new page similar to this page, and it will just GPT can do this. GPT is pretty good at this. Like just if you give it like a code with the component or like with the page, it will, and if you say it like rewrite this page or component, but for this tool, like for this action, for this use case, it's doing it great. And I even saw this thing, but it was I just couldn't start it for some reason. I don't know why. It's not worked for me. Yeah. So make this like ChatGPT interface for existing project. It's also could be like so good, but it's a different job. I understand that like your product is focusing on like reduce like time spent on boilerplate stuff, and for Next.js it could be like just such a banger. You could like I'm sure that you will hit like much more virality and adoption, and it should be a really nice idea.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Ivan, for the thoughts. Yeah, no, it's a lot of interesting, concepts and avenues, that one could take from here, and they all sound pretty exciting. So it's kind of hard to decide. I think one of the main. I think one of the main things for us. I mean, I also kind of said in the beginning, I expect, or at least, it seems logical to me that every framework, be it Next, Vue, or whatever, should have this kind of starter in the future, because it's kind of, I guess it's no brainer, right?
Yeah.
So, and right now we are not, we are not really in the business of doing it for every framework. Our main product is still Wasp, and I can also explain why and kind of why it fits really well with the GPT part. But yes, I mean the main difference between Next, Wasp, and others, that Wasp is focusing on the full stack experience. So both database and even the backend, which of course you can have some serverless part, which again Wasp will also probably cover in the future. But just kind of having this whole experience, developing both front end, back end, and kind of propagating data models through everywhere, without actually feeling you are using API. So I would say it's more similar, to T3, for example, which is actually kind of stack on top of Next. But only T3 is only just a code starter. You still end up with a ton of boilerplate code. So let's say Wasp is like T3, but actually a framework which takes out a lot of work for you. So I will not get into details, but I would say this is kind of the main vision that we are having with Wasp. And kind of one of the things that we're especially kind of excited about is also kind of in line with with what you were saying. I have my old projects, and they're all kind of the same, right? They have some pages, they have some routes, It will be so nice, if GPT can just take a look at it and just do something with it. So that was kind of the guiding thoughts that we had with Wasp, and this is why I can actually share the code. This
Actually,
is, you know,
I think,
sorry, go on.
You can, yeah, so I think you can use Wasp on top of Next.
Yes, we could.
I think like Wasp can generate some Next boilerplate for you based on Wasp
We could.
config. I think.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't designed it in that way, but you know, because right now Wasp is generating stuff in React and Node, but you know, we could have done it to generate stuff in Next if we wanted. It was just, you know, that the Next is a pretty big, let's say, you know, project, and you know, we didn't need so much of the functionality so far. I think, you know, the biggest one is SSR, and we'll probably implement it ourselves in some way. You know, because the main kind of, let's say, focus of, you know, Wasp and the Next is a bit different. You know, Next is still kind of more focusing on SSR, let's say, all these presentational sites, you know, which like really depend on the SEO and SSR. While Wasp is more focusing on, you know, typical workflow-based applications. You know, like whatever it is.
No, I'm not sure about that because, well, in Next you can like configure various render types, like the same as Next. You just develop in a project, you're writing components, you have like automated routing based on the folder structure, and then you can specify how you want to render it. You can say to render it on the client, render it on that.
No, sure. No.
Just,
What I meant to say is that, you know, like the biggest feature of Next is SSR, right? And that's kind of how it started. But you know,
it's how it started, but it's not what is right now.
Now you can do now you can do everything. Now you can do everything with it for sure. You can do whatever you want, right? But
I'm just saying, like,
hold on a second. I don't want to go down this like we're going down.
This is kind of
dark, not a dark path, but a deep path.
No, it's not dark, but it's
I want to say last thing.
But there's other folks that may have questions too, right? So let's make sure that we're not going down
I want to finish. So sorry. On the last thing, just because, you know, in Next you have, like, for example, routing, and you know, if you are not using Next, you will have to implement routing, you know, by yourself in Wasp or something like this. So basically, what I'm saying is, like, Next can help you, you know, not rewrite not implement some various stuff that you can want. It could just, like, you know, make even your work on Wasp. I'm not saying like this Wasp is not useful. I'm saying that, like, using Wasp, using Next in Wasp can help you, like, you know, develop Wasp faster, because it will, like, reduce your, like, boilerplate work. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Thank you very much for your thoughts, Ivan. I know it's a deep discussion also, as Matt said, and you know, we can all talk about frameworks all night long.
Yeah.
And I mean,
yeah,
we spend all of our days actually thinking about stuff like this, you know. So, you know, our conclusion was we didn't need to actually include Next for now, because, you know, we could actually implement, let's say, 90% of the features we needed, you know, without it. So we might do it in the future, but, you know, right now, it you know, just kept the product kind of simpler, more lean, and it was still covering you know, a lot of the use cases that we needed. But it's a very good point, and you know, we'll certainly consider it in the future.
Yeah, we can discuss all the JavaScript framework stuff offline within the community. So yeah, talking about the actual AI implementation, how did you taught the GPT how to generate the application with Wasp? Like, what's the mechanism behind the teaching, I'd say?
Oh yes, for sure. I mean, that's actually what I wanted to show. I think we should be visible. You know, we should be able to see some of the prompts we were running. So let me just actually, yeah, it's all here. So I can just show you the example. So, you know, the main thing about GPT is, you know, like obviously you have your own prompt, which, you know, you describe your own application. But we are doing a lot of the work around it, you know, to make sure it produces what we want it to. So, you know, like all the GPT is aware of the Wasp. Like we still needed to, because I think, you know, Wasp was like in 2020 something. So, you know, GPT could pick up some of the stuff, but still it was super helpful to actually say, you know, what Wasp is, how it works, and similar. Let me just find some interesting prompt that I can show you. I think this one might be good.
So you're having to write that, you're having to tell it how Wasp works in the prompt. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, I'm just trying to see what is this one is maybe good.
How long is the prompt usually?
I'm not sure, but in the end, you know, it said how many tokens it was. In the end, like 26,000 tokens were used for the generation of the whole application. Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, for example, here it is, right? Like what we are giving to GPT. So it says, hey, this is like an app description, and you know, we give it your prompt. but we also explain, for example, about, hey, this Node.js file, had some mistakes. Let's fix it. Like, check out for to-dos or comments, because GPT would often leave to-dos in place. When you say to do something, it will be like real developer and leave a to-do. So we had to say, like, don't leave any to-dos. Like, we need the actual implementation. Then, we had some of the issues, with imports, with like local modules and similar. Let's remove any of the kind of implementations directly into the file, or just take care of the redundant imports. So I can't scroll far enough to the top to show the initial part. But how we started, we said, hey, like you are expert WASP developer. You're going to help us develop this WASP application. And before we start, we are going to teach you, what actually WASP is and how it works. And then we would in some form, like feed it a short documentation of WASP. Hey, this is how you do routing. This is how you do pages. This is how you do, like, I know, like whatever, database communication. And with all of that, we will say, okay, now you have all of this knowledge, let's make a plan. And now with this knowledge, let's implement actually WASP file. Let's implement, React components, and let's implement Node.js functions. So that was it. I mean, it sounds, let's say, not too complicated, but it took a bit of fiddling around just to figure out, what is the right way of saying it, what is enough information, what is too much information. So it was like a lot of manual work to actually get to something which works. Yeah. And I mean, funnily enough, like people often think, that context size is the biggest problem. Like, oh, it is only like 16K context or something. If we used more context, it might work better, which we also thought in the beginning. But in the end, it turned out that the main bottleneck was not context. We actually kind of had even enough of it. It was just that some of the things, however many times you say it to GPT and explain it, it still won't listen to you. So it just kind of isn't smart enough in some cases to follow your instructions. So I mean, this is why we kind of spent most of the time on these heuristics for fixing the common mistakes we knew it would do.
Interesting.
Do you mind telling how much money does this whole setup consumes? Because it seems like you're using a lot of processing power.
Yeah, sure. We did some actually like benchmarking. So it takes about 10 to 20 cents USD dollars
per application.
Per application. Which is actually, I have here. We did comparison with another agent. I can quickly show you. You go to our blog. So we just recently did a comparison, with this another kind of general coding agent, which is not specialized for full stack applications. And if we check it out here, we have a nice table showing. It's here. Okay, cool. So let me just zoom it in. Okay, so here it is. So if we check, this solution, it actually took almost $10 in some cases for generating this kind of application. But for us, it was consistently between 10 and 20 cents. And I mean, there are two main reasons for that. One, that WASP is like really specialized for full stack applications. We can say it, we can explain its structure in advance. We can say, hey, login is always going to work this way. Sign up is always going to work this way. So this kind of, speeds up a lot already the whole process. But on the other hand, the trick we did is that we combined the GPT-4 and GPT 3.5. So it turned out that we don't need to use GPT-4 for everything. So, actually we use GPT-4 for the planning step. It figures out what to do, translates your, human readable sentences to the code. But then the actual generation, with all the instruction you have given it before, like this is how it works, it's pretty straightforward. So, we could actually utilize GPT 3.5 for that. And, that's why we got huge savings in the end. We tried using GPT-4 for everything, and, it does marginally better, but it's really marginally. So in the most cases, you're okay, with using 3.5 for the most of the generation. So that was kind of, like a smart trick we discovered.
Have you tried, this is a bit of a different question, but more about the prompts, not the prompts, I'm sorry, the initial question, the product description. Have you tried different types of product descriptions? Of course you have, but in terms of the amount that you specify, how much you specify or versus how little you specify, and even down to the features that you want, or the grouping features together and saying these certain things. Have you evaluated how well or or how maybe not well it works if
Yeah, we did.
overspecify things like that? What does that look like?
Yeah, we did play around. Actually, though, these three examples, in the beginning are quite good explanation. So we kind of put this as this is like like an easy app. This is like an easy one. This is the medium one, and this is like like let's say a bigger, more complicated app. It has even more stuff. It is just not visible here. So here we put some more stuff. So obviously, to do app works great. My plans also usually works without any trouble, and blog usually has like an error or two. So we did notice like more requirements we put in, more features we put in, it's going to get more errors. So it is definitely the case. I think the most complicated thing we were playing with getting running was like some typical CRUD app, but it also managed to get some APIs, like question some APIs, get some information and similar. I think that was the furthest it got. Otherwise, when you start saying like, hey, make social network like Facebook, but make it purple, it's going to either try too much and it will just leave to-dos everywhere, or it will just make something super simple. So I think probably for, let's say, these more complicated cases, it should be more of an iterative approach. Like you should probably start with something, get some skeleton, and say, okay, now expand this part, and let's add this part here, let's add this part here. So I mean, it's either you can take a copilot and try to use this, or now it is the question how deep into the actual development of the app do we take you, versus when do we hand you over to your regular GPT development process.
Interesting. One other thing I thought to bring up just very quickly, and I'll be done, is that there's another project. I had used GPT Engineer and other ones before too. I'd not heard of this one, so I was excited to hear to watch this demo. Nice. There was another one called Aider, AIDER. I don't know if you had heard of them. And that one was interesting because it was focusing on what I would call existing code bases and being able to make changes almost like pull requests. It would give you the deltas or the diffs between what it suggests, what you asked for, and then it would go and try to do it and tell you, here's the diff. And I really appreciated that one because it's an existing code base. And that was the problem with GPT Engineer and others. And in your case too, that you don't have this way to go back and edit the original code base once you've created it necessarily. And they're looking at it as a way to pair program, but realistically, it means it has access to the existing code base, or a code base that it never saw before. It may not have been generated by this application, right? And it's using some clever ways to know what's around in the application, so we can go and make the edits. And I thought to bring it up in case you'd not heard of it.
No, cool. No, I think it's a very good point. I think there are now kind of those two main classes of GPT coding tools. Ones are more for starting the product, and another ones are actually more for getting into your code. I would say that's kind of more similar to Copilot, right? You have Copilot. I mean, Copilot X is more like the one that actually tries to understand your code. So yeah, I think that is the main distinction. And also for us, that was the main question: how deep should we go into one direction or the other? For us, of course, it was natural to start, with WASP and with a new project. But it's also kind of logical to extend. Okay, I have my code now. What do I do next? I want to add more stuff. I want to use GPT more. So that is a very good distinction. And I think in a way, we should maybe even treat it separately, because the power of each is that it's kind of designed specifically for a specific phase. So I mean that's also why WASP AI works so well compared to the other general tools. And maybe it's also the reason why Copilot X or Aider is actually performing better on the existing code base.
What options for teaching ChatGPT the WASP syntax have you explored? So like the prompt is the very obvious one, but I think you've explored some other ways. For example, probably you've checked whether you can teach ChatGPT about WASP via the ChatGPT extension, for example, or in some other way.
Sorry, if you can teach WASP via ChatGPT extension. You mean like if
I mean, instead of the prompt, like so you mentioned that the biggest issue right now is that ChatGPT sometimes doesn't do what you want. So have you explored some other options on how you can teach ChatGPT the WASP syntax?
I get it. I get it. So I think we were mostly focusing for now on prompting. That was kind of the most straightforward thing to do. Another thing that was coming to our mind was actually fine tuning the model. I mean, even maybe taking Llama or something else that is open source and trying to fine tune it for WASP. I think that is quite promising. We just didn't have like real time and resources to do it. But I mean, the main thing was, it wasn't even about WASP many times. It was just about, even React or JavaScript. Like, we just said, hey, import this like this, and it wouldn't import it. It would import it the other way. So, I think it was more it was actually dealing with WASP quite well because, with WASP is so simple. It is just like, it looks like a bit, nicer JSON. Here, go to main.wasp, right? So, it's like very declarative, very simple. So this worked quite well, but it is just, sometimes some kind of this kind of wiring or boilerplate, it couldn't really get that it has to do it this way and not the other way it saw in some other code base. But yeah, I think fine tuning would be interesting. And I have to admit, I don't know much about ChatGPT extensions. So I'm not sure how would you utilize that.
Okay, so I guess we can talk about that offline after the call.
Sure.
Does anyone else have any questions? Because the three of us monopolized the time here. So.
Wow, I think that was great. Thank you, Max and Mateo, for this opportunity to be able to see all these things in action. I've been trying different tools to get MVPs made, mostly for our clients before we get into the discovery phase, just to show potential investors and stuff. So I think this is a very good tool for that as well. So maybe you can, one of the things that I don't want to take much of your time, but in terms of the design, I think maybe we can tell ChatGPT on how the product is going to look like in terms of more on the front end side. That will also help because when it comes to MVP or not MVP, high fidelity prototypes. Yeah. So it's more about what is being displayed rather than what's happening in the back. Most people don't even understand those things. So, I mean, I'm not technical. I'm a very new product manager trying to build new products, and AI and tools like this and people like yourself, they have been a great help. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ahmad,
and I'm
for your
very
comments.
excited. Yeah, I'm very excited to use WASP and the tool to get some of my prototypes and hopefully provide some valuable feedback.
Awesome. That would be amazing, and we would appreciate that a lot. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's an interesting point you brought up, Ahmad, and maybe it's worth remembering that what I thought was interesting is that specified in the description the pages that you wanted. And it was, I think it's useful. You almost could let it go and build what it wanted, but if you have the pages already created, the routes already created, then you can go back as a designer and make the UI, make it look like what you want it to, but you already have a lot of that, all the framework is already there. So you could, you're kind of giving it the skeleton, and then you can design it to look better so you can show it to a client as a functional prototype.
Yeah.
One thing I realized is the more frameworks you are using when working with ChatGPT, the better. And the next thing, the more old frameworks you are using, the better. Like less errors, less tokens usage. You need to spend less time on teaching ChatGPT on how to deal with this. So that's why, like, you can ask ChatGPT to create a page and not use CSS and use Tailwind, because it trained on the data like till 2021, and Tailwind already existed here, and there are lots of code with Tailwind, and it can use Tailwind. And also it's easy, like you can use Bootstrap. Bootstrap is also pretty old. ChatGPT already knows all the Bootstrap components, like React Bootstrap components, or MIUI. And you can basically ask ChatGPT to generate a page using like MIUI components, or like you can use any new like great modern UI framework and ask it to use it. Like just give it list of components that you have, the props that they have, and it will already know how to use them. And that's how you can like very easily automate, because like, I also experimented a lot with ChatGPT, and also experimented a lot with like generation of code and documents with ChatGPT. So yeah, the more frameworks you're using, like the easier it gets. That's just my little insight.
We've got a question from Ahmad.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying this is all about a war of frameworks now. Like, who comes on top?
It's not a war. It's not a war.
I'm just saying. I think for product designers, when we have problems to solve, we don't really care about what framework is being used. We want the problem to be solved. I mean, that's just my 2 cents there. Yeah. So for me, and also I think the big potential here is for people who are learning how to code. It can be very helpful for educators. This kind of stuff, and of course, I think then Ivan's point can be there, because more frameworks mean more people can learn more languages or frameworks. I'm not technical, so yeah, I actually forgot what question I had, so never mind.
That happens from time to time. So yeah, if you don't mind, we are short in time. So I'm pretty sure, like with this such an amazing presentation, we will have yet another hour. So the joke about 3 hours runtime, and
it wasn't a joke.
It wasn't a joke. And, so I will extremely appreciate if we will jump into the Slack to discuss that in a bit more detail, and we will wrap up for now. So yeah, thank you. Ahmad, please come up with your question shortly. I'm waiting it in the Slack.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. So Matija, thank you very much for this amazing presentation. That was absolutely fantastic. Haven't expected it to be such a banger, honestly. Like, I've been thinking it can generate a couple buttons and that's it, but I can see so much potential in it. Ivan, thank you very much for all the contributions related to JavaScript framework. I'm sure like Matija is taking notes somewhere like away away from the screen.
For being that very unpleasant framework
discussion.
Framework.
No, I appreciate it. No, I really appreciate it. Thanks, Ivan, for the discussion. I think, good points.
Yeah, Ahmad, Matt, thank you very much for joining. I can see Fireflies IO there. Note taker, no idea who you are, but
that's Matthias, note taker. So yeah,
that's cool.
Oh,
that's
okay,
cool.
interesting.
If you need it, that's basically mine. I can help with the notes there. Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
That sounds cool.
Awesome.
Tell us more about it in our Slack. Would love to hear that.
Awesome.
Okay, so yeah, thank you very much for joining, everyone, and have a great rest of your Friday evening or
Likewise.
Day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Max, for inviting, and yeah, have a good one.
No post-presentation coffee talk today.
We'll see you guys. Take care.
Yeah, see ya. Bye.